In today's video, we're going to look at how to use a render texture to make a little bit of a mini map on our game. There's really only three things we need to create here. One is a camera to grab a view of the game that we want to project onto the mini map, an actual texture or something in game to put that mini map display on, and a render texture to basically tie the two together. So let's go ahead and we'll set this up. First, I'm going to create a new camera, which I will call mini map cam. And anytime you have multiple cameras in your scene, if you're going to have more than one active at a time, make sure you disable at least one audio listener. To be honest, I'm just going to get rid of it. I don't need it. And what I'm going to do is open up my car. I don't even need to open it up. Well, I'll open it up anyway. I'm going to go ahead and child this to my car. There we go. Now take note that when I did create it, my whole game view changed here. I'm going to go and zero out its position so it's at the origin of my car. And we might as well zoom in on it, right? While I still have this view, I want to go ahead and position this mini map. So I'm going to raise it above my car, rotate it 90 degrees on the X so I get that downward view. And then basically adjust it so this is, the mini map view I'm going to get. Here's a smaller version of it. So I'll go a little bit more, maybe about there. Great. Now, how do we get our game view? If we were to start a game and play, this is the view we're going to have, the top-down view, and it's not what we want. We want that camera that's following our car, which is actually in this particular scene. This is the camera that's following our car. Now, how do we get this one to be the main camera? Well, if we take a look at the depth, notice that it's set to -1 on that main camera. On our mini-map cam, it's set to 0. Now, the way this works is the higher the depth value, the farther up on the render path it goes. So something with a lower depth will be rendered first, and then the higher depth gets rendered above it. So we just can't see it. So we'll fix that in a minute, but let's go ahead and get the rest of the stuff set up. I want to go ahead and create let's just do a quad. This is going to be for our mini map. There we go. And because I had the mini map selected when I made it, it was a child of it. I actually don't want it to be a child of that. I want it to be a child of the main camera. And I'm just going to go ahead, zero out the rotation, and we'll go ahead and zero out the X, Y, and Z as well. I'm going to go ahead and disable the mini map cam for now, just while I'm playing around with the actual quad, just so I can get it positioned better. And I want it right here. I'm just going to go ahead and move it out a bit. And we'll notice that it's actually casting and receiving shadows. We're going to want to turn that off as well. Not to mention it has a collider that we don't want. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Maybe about there. There we go. Well, so we're going to go ahead and put it right there. It's kind of big, but for demonstration purposes, that's fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the collider. We don't want it colliding with anything. And I'm also going to go ahead and just turn the shadows off. And the third thing I said we had to create was the render texture, which I've already created. Let me go ahead and redo this. Go ahead, right click, create, and come down to render texture. Right there. I'm going to call it mini map. And we'll come back to our quad. I'm going to go ahead and drag this on. And we notice the texture here changed for it. Right there. And I'm probably actually going to play around with the shader. Well, I'll let you play around with the shader. I usually go with one of the unlit stuff. It really depends on the feel that you want for your game. But for now, I'll go ahead and leave that there. And notice it's just a big blue thing. I'm going to go ahead and enable this camera again. And where it says target texture, I would notice it wants a render texture. Just take that render texture we made, drag and drop it up there. And there we go. Everything that this camera sees, it will project over here. Now, I have a tendency to also want to go ahead and take the depth layer. Let me just go ahead and take this off. Oh, it got stuck there, didn't it? I think if I save, it fixes. Oh, down here. I'm looking at the wrong screen again. Now, I have a tendency to go ahead and set my depth layer for all my mini-map stuff to -10. This is just a workflow thing. You don't really have to do this. But I like to go ahead, set it to -10 so I know that it's way down the pipeline. If for some reason this texture ever gets lost, it should never interfere with my actual main camera. I think that's just something held over from a long time ago. But anyway, it's just one of the things I do. So I'm going to go ahead, attach that mini map again. We got our view, save the scene. And if we go ahead and start driving around, we should actually have it following us around. We can even see the smoke. And let's go hit some blocks. There we go. And spin out and go under here. Now we could go ahead and create a layer. Actually, we have to do that anyway. You can't see it here, but if I were to go ahead and make this bigger or have the camera up higher, minimap cam, you can just see the flicker of it right here. We're actually seeing the mini map on our display. And to get rid of that, we're going to grab our mini map, the actual quad. I'm going to switch it over to a different layer. In this case, there's already one called UI, which is kind of perfect for what we want for it. I'm going to switch to UI and then come back down to our mini map cam. And where we have the culling set up right here, the culling mask, tell it to cull everything but the UI. And if well, again, just for better demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead, take the quad. Let's rotate it a bit so you can see it better in the mini map. So right there. If we go ahead and switch the quad, it's already on UI. We'll grab that mini map cam. Ooh, I've got mail. We'll go ahead and switch this over to not showing UI. There we go, it disappeared. I actually kind of like that view. Let's go ahead and angle it a bit more. Oh, that's the camera. Great. Here we go. Hours playing around with 3D mini maps. I'm actually going to leave it like that. But now we don't see the UI stuff, which may be something that you don't want. You generally don't want that. I kind of like this view, to be honest. Now, there are some problems with just childing it the way I did for the minimap cam. This is great if the object you're following is never going to rotate. But if my car flips, the camera is going to flip with it. So if you have stuff that's going to rotate, you're going to want to have a camera instead of just having it child. Create some sort of camera system that just always projects straight down regardless of the rotation of your character or the target that you're following. Something similar to what we did in the 3D project for the space shooter. But anyway, there you go. All the basics you need to get your mini map started up. This can be used for a ton of different things. Does our car have mirrors? I thought it did. Apparently it doesn't. Well, if it had mirrors, you could go ahead and set those up as well so that they point backwards, and you can have like mirrors where you can actually see. Maybe you've got an in-cockpit view. You could go ahead and set a rear view mirror up so you can see behind you. Or maybe in your game, you've got some giant Jumbotron set up somewhere. And you could go ahead and project it up there onto your Jumbotron. And you can also start getting a little bit more complex with this stuff, where if I'm going to have a lot of minimap type stuff in my game, I generally don't like to see them all following my camera around like this. So I'll usually have some designated area in my game where I have all these elements set up, and then I have another camera shining on them just for the UI stuff to be set up. But that's a completely different video. But that's all I really wanted to show for this video, is how to go ahead and create that mini map. I get this question quite a bit. Here's one very simple way to do it. What do you think of it? Let me know down below in the comments. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. So if you like the video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. It really does help me out here on YouTube. And go ahead and follow me on Twitter. You're a pretty chatty guy over there when I'm not walking through a forest or being stalked by eagles and falcons, lions, tigers, and bears.